Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Dew with E1 Solutions, and I want to welcome you to this session on Popdock. And the specific subject that we're talking about today is what SQL reporting gurus will love about building their lists inside of Popdock. So maybe a couple things before we dig right in is what is Popdock? For those of you that maybe haven't seen this before, it is a cross-application reporting tool, and it's for the people that are doing stuff, right? It is the data that you need to do your job every day. So it's those lists as opposed to the analysis of millions of records. These are what we're getting down to is the things you need to do for your job today. And we're talking about with Popdock that you can access that data wherever, basically, wherever you want it. So I have a slide I'm going to show you next on exactly what that means. But again, we're talking about fast access to that data that you need to do your job from any device. And so what do I mean by any device? Well, that could be a mobile phone, that could be your desktop, that could be a tablet, that could be right from Excel, right? If you live in Excel, like I know a lot of people do in the business world, we can get at that data and then you can do whatever you need to with it. So 5 main pillars of Popdock, just very quickly. We're not going to go into most of these today because we're going to be focusing on the SQL reporting side of things, but it does allow you to expose, once we have the list data that we need, we can embed that into any application, whether that be some kind of a CRM system or an ERP system or an e-commerce system or a portal, maybe a custom internal portal. We can use it for those kinds of things. And this gives us one interface for reporting across any system. What does that mean again? Well, no matter if I'm connecting to that e-commerce system, I have the same filtering that I'm doing if I'm connecting to a SQL database or an ERP system. I'm able to do filters, do the drag and drop grouping. I can do all of the same things, and we've given you one interface to do that as opposed to learning 5 different interfaces for all the data that you need to connect to. The other part, again, is just being able to connect to many different systems so we can report across those systems, and we're going to go into that in a little bit later today. The other piece is this is real-time data access. This is not something that's maybe sitting in a stale data warehouse. This is something that is giving us that data right now. And then one of the things that we talk about a lot is basically getting down to just the things I need to do my job. So maybe it's finding out 3 exceptions, finding the people that maybe went over their credit limit today. So that's all my report is here's my customers that went over their credit limit today. And so I want that emailed to me maybe every morning or every afternoon so that I can do something about that. So you can schedule those kinds of things. So those are some tenets of Popdock, but I want to get into really a few different subjects today on what we can do from a SQL reporting standpoint. So one of the things we're going to talk about is taking any SQL table or SQL view and using that to basically connect to whatever list data that we need. So we do have a generic SQL connector that we can connect to any type of data. We can access all tables that, whatever the credentials for that user are, we can access that. And we can access all the views in there as well. So for the SQL people on this call today, I think you'll find that it's very, very flexible in how you can add the data that you need. So let's jump in and look at what we can do with that. So inside of Popdock here, we're going to go into the connectors section. And I'm going to start with one that I have. This is a SQL database, so we're going to start there today. And if we look at this, you'll see that I only have a couple of lists in here. This is because even though I'm pointing this to, again, this happens to be some ERP data, even though I'm pointing it to that data, I'm actually just going directly to the SQL on this. So let's do this for now. We're going to add a new group. We're just going to call it SQL reporting, since that's what we're talking about today. And so we're going to put our lists that we create inside of here. So if I want to add a new list, that doesn't exist, I basically hit the add tables. Because this is a SQL connection, it's going and grabbing all of the metadata. So basically every table and view that we have access to. So if we look at, you can see some of these are tables. And if I went to like, if I was looking for inventory information, it's a lot of tables in this database. I should have picked a smaller one. Okay, and if we look at like some of these other ones, these are actually views, right? Inventory purchase receipts is a view I have created inside of this table. So if we want, I could, add multiples of these. I'm going to go with a real simple one today. We're just going to pick the items one. So I'm going to add this. In this case, it's a view instead of a list. The nice thing about this, right, is that this will actually get us the pretty names, the human readable names that I have added into that view. Whereas if you go directly to a SQL table that maybe doesn't have, has very technical names, you're going to get whatever is in that. So you can see right now, here's our list we have called items, and I'm just going to put it into our SQL reporting list. And if we start to go inside of here, we're going to see that all the fields inside of here, right, are pulling back those kind and gentle names. Now, if I wanted to, instead of calling this item number, for example, if it made more sense to be called SKU, I could do that. And so that's how easy it is to change things inside of here. Again, for the SQL reporting gurus, some of these things, it's great for you because if you want to provide an interface for some of your end users without really giving them, much access to SQL, you can just give them access to the views or tables that you want, and then they can do the small little things that they want in their list out here without, ever having to need additional SQL access. So we'll just go with that for now. And if we dig into this to see what we've built, we're going to go add it to this this connector. Just a second. I did add that to a group, didn't I? Let's look one more time. Oh, I thought I had clicked it. I must have clicked off. All right. So now we've re-added it to that group. Now if we go back, there we go. There's our items group now that we've added to our SQL reporting group. And what it should be doing is pulling everything inside of that view. So again, I think pretty easy. Again, that was one table. But what I want you to understand is that now we can actually, so this is maybe items, but maybe when you wanted to pull some additional information from items, maybe when you wanted to pull all of the invoices that had that item on it, or maybe we wanted to pull some additional quantity information, right? Like the quantity available from these other areas. We can certainly do stuff like that to pull back the data that's needed. Okay, and it looks like I have something wrong with that view, but the one thing we can see is that I changed the name of this, so we didn't get any. Oh, there it is. There's all our data. I changed what was previously called item number to SKU or SKU, and so now I can do that. So again, some of the same interface things, right? If we wanted to group by the item type, now we can see, here we go, here's all of our flat fee kit, those different kinds of things. I could group by as many things as I wanted. I could filter by as many things as I wanted, right? If I wanted to say, hey, let's also filter by item type. So I could switch to that. And again, these are the things that I was talking about, is that, let me just grab this real quick. I'll just say we want items of just the kit items. If we just wanted our kit items, we could do that. And I guess here's the whole point is that filtering system is the same across no matter what connector it is. We happen to be looking at a SQL connector right now, but that could be some kind of a web service or one, any of the number of connectors that we have available. So now we're getting just, because of our filter, just the items that are of type kit. So if we go back to our connector, this is what I think SQL people will love, is that basically, if you look at this, no matter, well, I might be jumping ahead. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead into the next topic right now. But if we go back into this list that we have, is that that's one list. And so what we're going to talk about next is if we wanted to combine that data with other data, right? So again, if I want to see maybe just the quantities available or all of the transactions that are on that, we can tie in those other tables or views or whatever we want, again, without necessarily needing to go to the SQL level. We don't have to create a new view. We can actually just, with our custom lists, we can add those. So I'll come back to that in just a bit. Let's jump into, I'm going to pull up a slide real quick. Now, moving beyond just the SQL data, we can talk about accessing non-SQL data. So what I'm going to show you is just very briefly is another connector that we can use and use that same interface. So if we go back to our connectors, you can see I have quite a few of them set up in here already. So I have everything from, this is a SQL one, but I have some ERP systems, several different types of them. I have some CRM systems. I have other just web service systems inside of here. And so what's kind of cool about these web service ones, I'll point this out. This is our generic REST connector, which even if we don't have one of the dedicated connectors that we have available in the list of connectors to add, you can still access data from those other places. And so in this case, this is ShipStation, which is a e-commerce kind of manages shipping across like Amazon orders and eBay orders and stuff like that. So this is their API that we're able to tap into, and again, have as many lists as we want. So we have a few lists across these things. Same kind of principles and as the other SQL list. Now we're getting that data back. It's just not coming from a SQL database. It's coming from a web service in this case. The reason I wanted to show you this is really to set up the next section that we're going to talk about here, is that not only can we get data from these other systems, we can now combine data. So that's what we're going to talk about next. So combining data from multiple systems. What this allows us to do is no matter where the origin is, like I said, whether it's a web service or a SQL table or one of the other connectors that we have, but we can now summarize that data. We can compare it to data in another list. We can join it with other types of data. It doesn't even have to be a SQL list, or we can merge it with other systems. So what do I mean by this? Let me give you a couple examples. I might have just one report that has all of my orders coming from multiple e-commerce sites. I mentioned earlier, maybe Amazon, maybe eBay, maybe I have a custom website built in Shopify or Magento or WooCommerce, something like that. I could have one report that basically combined all of the orders across those 3 or 5 places where I have my data. Or again, maybe it's something like I have a couple different credit card processing systems. So maybe I need to take my Braintree transactions and my Stripe transactions, and I want to see all of the cash that cleared, through those systems that day. Or again, maybe it's a scenario where I'm moving from an old on-premise ERP system and I still want to be able to report off of some of that old data, but I didn't really want to migrate that data. Maybe I'm in a cloud scenario. Again, maybe you were on-prem and now you're in the cloud, and you're saying, hey, I still want to have a report that says, here are all the invoices we've had over the last 20 years from this customer, but I just don't want to, migrate 20 years of data into the other system. Well, you can do stuff like that where we can basically have a merged report that says, let's go grab all the stuff from this old system, grab all of the stuff from the new system, and then we can pull it together and have one report that is the truth of all the things that we've sold to that customer. So hopefully just a couple of things for you to think about. And again, for my SQL guru friends, I think the part on this that resonates with me is that no matter where the data is coming from, we essentially are giving you virtual SQL tables, right? We're basically doing the joins, no matter even if it's JSON data or XML data, whatever it is. And if you want to combine that with SQL data, we are doing all that for you. And so it gives you a unique opportunity to really combine that data without needing, I guess here's kind of the key point. You don't necessarily need to have a data warehouse to pull all these things together. I know in my experience of over 20 years, there's a lot of people that have spent a lot of money and a lot of time pulling in data into a SQL data warehouse so that they can write meaningful reports on this. And we're hoping that Popdock helps you do that without necessarily needing that intermediary warehouse that, again, for some people is frankly out of date, right? If they're doing it once a day or even once every couple hours, that might not be the most accurate data for people to do their job. In places where it might be about e-commerce orders, maybe I need up to the minute information on those orders. So this is really where, again, having a virtual data warehouse with Popdock is it pulls in all the data from all those systems. So let's look at how you would set some of these lists up inside of Popdock. I'm going to go back to just a SQL connector. For now, we'll keep picking on this one here. But what I want to show you, here's all the lists that have been created. And again, if you want to add tables or views or whatever, we could do that right up here. But we can also add these special type of lists. So these are the custom lists. So we talked about a couple of these. I'm going to show you probably two of them right now. I'm going to show you ones where we can do joining with another piece of data. We're going to talk about a merge list and compare as well. So let's start with just a join list. So if we wanted to call this, again, I'm just going to call this SQL reporting, since this is what we're talking about today. So this is going to become the new name of my list, and I can choose which group it's going to go in. We'll put it in that group. But here's where things get fun. I can say what lists I want to add in here. So we could start with just that first list that we had today. So why don't we do that? We'll just pull our items list. So we could start with that one, but I could then say I want to add a list because I want to go pull some information from my, let's see. I was going to pull my e-commerce system. Well, just for now, I will do this. I'm just going to tie it back into another GP connector that I have. So then in this case, I can pull this into a list. And what you're essentially doing at this point in time is you are joining them, right? So this is like a SQL join. So that we give you a very simple interface to do this. So I'm going to take the item number and basically going to join it to the item number from the other list. Oh, Okay, remember I called it SKU? That's why I couldn't find it. There we go. So now we have that join. That's the first part, right? We've basically done, again, just like you were doing if you were writing your own view or something like that, we've basically just done a join, saying we're going to join this table to this other table. In my case, again, I have a SQL connector connecting to a GP connector, so it's maybe not very different, but like I said, this could be a web service instead. But now I get to pick which fields I want. So I can say, and again, I picked the same list. I shouldn't have done that. But if I want, we'll just grab a couple of the fields here. So if I want maybe the item description, SKU item description. So I could pull that from that one, and then this is really poor that I chose the same name. Apologize for that. But then I could add from the second list inside of here, I could add all of the codes in here. So if I wanted to have maybe the class, some class information and the shipping weight or something like that, I can add those fields from that other connector. So you can see up here that they are pulling from different connectors. So this one's from this SQL database and this one's from the GP connector. And so now we have 4 fields on here. We can choose which ones to default, right? So when we create a brand new list, if I'm saying, hey, I want these 3, but not the item shipping weight, that is what we'll get. And we can choose what's our key field, right? So we'll say that in this case, the SKU is our key field. So that's really how easy it is to join any 2 types of data, no matter what connector you're joining it across. It gives us that capability to join it. And now here's how easy it is to look at this. What did we call it? We called it SQL reporting. Okay. So if I go home now, and if I want to add this report to be one of my things on the tab, we added it to we were inside of here still. Yep. And so there's our SQL reporting list that we added. And now when this pulls up, it is going to be pulling, again, maybe not the greatest of example, but it's pulling from one GP connector and one SQL connector, and is now going to pull just the 3 fields that we have, right? So we have, looks like most of them don't have a class, okay? So none of them have a class in what we pulled back from here, but we have our SKU and our item description. And if we wanted to, we could pull that one more field, right, that we didn't default. We can add that. Now it's going to refresh a list and get that new information. So there we go. And looks like none of my stuff has a shipping weight as well. But I think you can see that you can do some of those kinds of things that you maybe have had to create custom SQL reports for, and expose in some way, whether it be inside of an Excel report or inside of a maybe an SSRS report or any number of things like that. Now we can have one simple interface that people can use, and it gives your end users, without needing to have a lot of knowledge into the SQL access on how they're doing it, or again, way beyond SQL, if they're into web services and stuff. That basically, I mean, whenever you hear web services, you should probably hear the word developer and dollars and time. So those are the things that it kind of helps you eliminate, because you can connect all those things without again having to call you each and every time they want to make some tweaks to their reports. And they can make favorites out of this too, right? If they only wanted, again, I probably should have put like an item class, or, well, I know there's none of these have classes. If I had something meaningful on here, well, here, let's just do this. Let's put a filter that says has to have phone in the item description. So now we should get a few less records. Yep, so now we're just down to 21 records that have phones, and we can now save this as a favorite. So we could call this our phone favorite. And so if we ever want to come back to this list very quickly, we now have this one that just pulls the information we need. And you can see for end users, that's how easy it is for them to look at. So we could export this too, right? If they want it in seconds, it's in a SQL report. Let me just drag that from my other screen here. And so here's that data that we can put right inside of a SQL report. So here's just those records. But I'm going to show you something other kind of cool, that once you build those lists inside of Popdock, I can access them right from Excel. So you can see this is available in the app source, so the Office section of app source. You can download this, and if you have a Popdock account, we can pull that data in. But I'm just going to insert new Popdock data. We need to connect with whatever account we have. And what you'll see is it'll pull up all of your connectors that you have inside of there, right? So here's all the connectors. We were picking on this one today, so I'll just pick that for now. Again, there's our group that we created. Here's our different lists. So here's our SQL reporting list. And the cool thing, remember that favorite we just created for the phone numbers? That also shows inside of here. And so I can hit insert data now. And what it's going to do is it's going to pull that data live right from there. Maybe. Okay. Didn't look like it did it, but it should be pulling that data live from the system. I should have basically have had the same thing that I had in this tab. It should have put it in my second tab. So there's some cool things that we can do around that. So just to, I guess, finish everything off, a couple of highlights going back is that we can pull any SQL data, any views and tables we have access to. We can pull data that is not SQL in nature at all, right? XML, JSON, those kinds of things. If we have a web service that we can connect to, we can pull that data in as well. And then to really take it to the next level is that we have the capability to pull from any of these lists, and we can now have something meaningful by combining that data. Or again, we can merge it, we can summarize it, we can actually do a compare. Those are some of the other lists that we didn't, sorry, I was going to come back to. Let me just show you a visual on that one more time. Those other custom lists that we can add. Again, comparing records. So we could say, hey, give me all of the records that are in my ERP system for customers, but aren't in my CRM system. Or again, give me the ones that are similar, right? From my e-commerce orders, give me a comparison that says, here's all the ones that are in both systems. So you can do those kinds of lists just by joining, or I should say comparing them. Joining, we talked about where we joined it with another list. Merge is those capabilities that we have to pull similar type of data across multiple systems and actually give ourselves one list. And again, from a SQL standpoint, you can think of a merge list as really a union. So you're basically saying, here are my fields in this one. I'm going to map them to the similar fields in the second list, and we can join those things. Another one we don't talk about a lot is the summarize list, but this can be very nice as well if you just want to see, again, maybe you have 10,000 orders, but you just want to see the items that have been sold, and say maybe see your top items on a list like that. You can have it automatically summarize that list without having to, create any new access for somebody. They can just very quickly go, hey, I want a new list, and I'm going to summarize the data from this one. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. Again, as a SQL guru, where you maybe have done things in the past where you've had to create data warehouses to aggregate some of this data, or even create views and those kinds of things. This gives you a tool no matter where you're coming from to do that. And I'll give you one example just to kind of close the day off. We currently have a customer that has, to this point in time, before they knew about Popdock, they were using our Smart Connect system to take data from about 20 different systems and bring it into one massive data warehouse. And so they were happy with the solution. Smart Connect was, delivering on pulling data from all those different areas that they, had to do. But then they started realizing that that wasn't necessarily the function, wasn't just integration. The function of it was actually getting that data back to their users. And so this is where Popdock has come into the equation, is that they are now looking at this massive data warehouse they have and saying, how do I expose, we have 200 tables in there. How do I expose all of these different pieces of information to my customers or their internal employees? So that's how they're using Popdock, is that very easily they're just taking SQL views that may have some complex calculations in there. We do have some calculation ability right inside of Popdock, but if you want to do complex, a lot of people are doing it right in a SQL view and then simply using that SQL view to expose it to everybody. So hopefully that gives you a couple ideas, and just want to thank you for your time today. And if you do have some additional questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you. So have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.